Yeah.
Here we are,
good.
everyone. Hopefully you can't hear all the craziness going on in the background, jackhammers and what have you. But we're live. Welcome, everyone. How you all doing?
Feels great.
Yeah.
You all dry?
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
After
Today was
last night,
beautiful
it was
after
rough.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. You know, we watched it. My parents, we got all the phone calls and texts. You guys are okay. You know, meanwhile, I had to drive like a good 15 minutes before I could even find any water. So, yeah. So what was it around like you?
Really
you?
rough. I live pretty close to the highway, and there was just water coming over and down the berm. You could see cars just abandoned on the highway. Police picking people up and just rescuing them. I don't know what happened to the cars. I guess they just towed them when it kind of dried out. It was very rough all the way around.
Yeah. I didn't see anything from just rain. It wasn't that windy by me, but I would just hear and then check the news and see all the chaos out there. But, for the most part, we were fine.
Yeah, good. What about you, Alima?
I woke up to go to the gym at 5 o'clock this morning, and I had a cut off at Valley Road. I couldn't get down near the golf course. Had to take a little detour, but other than that, it was fine.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, overall, I think we were all pretty lucky. I got a fascination lately with watching like flooding videos. So but like I think I've said before, at least I have a boat in the garage, so I can jump in that if it all gets a bit crazy. I'm super paranoid this week about the show, so all the technical aspects and what happens is during this before the weekly show, I have other people come out that I interview that you'll hear about in a moment. And what happens is I move everything around, and when I do that, I'm still a bit of a noob with some of this the software that I'm using. So forgive me. Please. So it's a little bit crazy. I think what I'm going to do in a minute is I realize Dave's camera is a little bit hot. I'm trying to adjust things, but it's going to be what it's going to be. We just want to put out an audio clear stream for everyone's podcast this week, and we'll get all that sorted.
I don't mind being hot either.
Yeah.
It's not the first time he's been called that, right?
I'll just stay hot the whole time. That's fine.
So this week we thought what we'd do is introduce a little bit about what all of this is about and how it all got started. So I'm going to look at the camera right now instead of my prestigious colleagues. About 7 years ago, I was training to become a teacher on the alternate route program, and I had to teach the other teachers in the program. And I decided to do my little lesson. It was going to be like 10-20 minutes long, not very long, about teachable moments. Just those things that happen during class, obviously, that we can all interject on and just say, oh, you know what, that would be a really great point to bring up this teachable moment, be it about talking about pride or how to handle someone else's objections or upsetting someone and whatever it might be, disagreements in class. So I kind of created that. And then at the time, I asked the lady that taught me, because she was like, you know what, I see the future in this and what you've just done. Would you like to do something, turn it into something like PD for schools? And that's what happened way back then. But I had a lot of training and a lot of learning that I needed to go through. I had to mature as well in order to kind of put all the pieces together. So fast forward about a year or two, actually a year, and my students in class, they were getting ready to leave high school. They were seniors, and they were talking, and you can tell there was concern. And my thing was, hey guys, what are you talking about? What's going on? And they had all these big life questions, heavy stuff. And I said, I'll tell you what, write down 2 or 3 questions, and tomorrow we'll do a little moment on it. I'll go through as much as I can. I probably won't be able to answer everything, But I was thinking, what job should I train for? What profession would be good to move forward on in life? And 90% of the questions had nothing at all to do with what I thought they were going to ask. The following day, I asked my sophomores, because the seniors had really piqued my interest. And I got to be honest, I mean, I was moved to tears during my lunch break, thinking I never had to deal with this stuff. The questions and the depth of the questions that these guys were asking, all the students, just in a million years, I never would have thought that they would be asking these types of big life questions. So I went to bed that night, and when I woke up, I knew something had to be created. So that's when I went full force and created thepathwetake.org. So years ago I created that. I interviewed a whole bunch of people. I had them come out to my little humble studio, but even back then it was pretty crazy, just really messy. And but that's where I recorded a lot of teachers, a lot of everyday people that you think that are everyday, but they got these amazing, incredible stories. And so fast forward again, COVID happens, right, many years later, and all the things that I was doing, not knowing, SEL, social emotional learning. I joined the committee because I was like, I think this could be very useful. And lo and behold, it's exactly kind of what I've been training for all these years. So, it was a bit of an eye-opener, and every single thing that I had worked on, I've now put into this ensemble of a site, a future app. It's accessible now, but presently it's called MllO, and it's MllO.app. It's not all complete, but there's a lot up there. So all the interviews, all of the big life questions and what have you, in the coming weeks and the coming months, timing isn't perfect with me being able to take time out and add to it. And, I've had the summer off, and I owe my wife because she allows me to do all this stuff, or for the rest of the year, I basically am going to disappear as I come up and I work on, for the rest of the evening, adding and progressing and getting input now from my colleagues. Like I have Alima, Dave and Dan that are joining me on this. And so that is basically the foundation of where all this come to a head. And little did I know, everyone had a strategic place on board all of this, but little did I know how beautifully perfect each of you would slot in to this kind of creation of what it is.
Nice thing to say.
Well, it is, because thinking about it, we've got someone that helps out in not only what you just moved to discipline now, right, within school.
Correct.
But you also work with the local gels.
Yeah, in fact, I just came from there about 15 minutes ago. Yeah, so
just absolutely incredible.
Seen some stuff down there, sure.
Yeah.
So I think I'll probably reference some of the things I've seen, and I don't know, it just super excited to be here right now.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's exciting. For me, it is strongly tinged with all of this technical stuff that we'll get down, and just writing down all those presets. And then also Dave, who's also like a major driving force behind like a lot of the, look, we should do this, we can't go in this direction, and we could do that.
Type A.
Please tell me if I'm overstepping my bounds. I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, come on, bring it. So, and Dave, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
So I've been teaching now. This will be my 18th year teaching, and I just love it. And I teach English at the high school level, juniors mainly, honors. I've taught some AP classes as well. But I just really love teaching. I have a master's in ed leadership as well, so I have my principal cert and a supervisor cert. And when I started to venture into that territory about 11 years ago, 2010 is when I had my certifications. I tried it for a little bit, and then I was like, I really love teaching. I wanted to go back to that. I actually took a pay cut to come to the school we're at
Wow.
in order to go back to teaching. No. And I just love it. The interaction with the kids, and getting to know. I'm like really excited about next week too. So I really enjoy the discussions about education and helping people, and just anything to help the youth, especially get through these difficult times, especially now with technology, with COVID, all the different things. And SEL is just perfect for that. Just to tap into teaching the person, not just the student side of things.
Yeah. And then I'm minding my own business, and I reach out to Alima, and then it was only later that I realized she has all this other stuff going on that's directly related to kind of exactly what we're doing. So you're out there helping people anyway in the world. Yeah. So tell us what you do these days.
So the crazy thing is that we were all in the English department at one point together, so we got to share that time together. I was an English teacher from 2007 until 2016. I actually went back for curriculum instruction and then pursued school counseling, which was always something that I wanted to do. Yeah. Even though, like you said, in the classroom, you end up doing some of those things. Teaching English 1, especially creative writing, I had the opportunity to ask those questions and have those conversations with the kids. So I saw a lot of that in the classroom as well. But now I also do clinical work as a licensed associate counselor. So definitely into helping our kids however we can, and just making sure that they're okay, and if they're not, giving them the resources to be okay.
I got a feeling I'm going to be sneaking in some subliminal questions that I'm going to get answered. But at the end of this year, I'm going to be sorted mentally. So brilliant. It's look. I'm kind of sidetracked a little bit as I'm looking, because I'm hearing stuff and I want to fix it and what have you. But at least we don't have the same issue as last week, so that's a good thing. The app that's being created, first it was The Path We Take, and I thought everything was going to be branded The Path We Take, and there was a podcast and blah blah blah. And fast forward again some years, all the names are taken, right? So you're running through all the names and the possibilities of what something could be called. And I stumble on, and I thought, well, you want someone to be more mellow, to be more calm, to be more soothed, and what have you. So I looked at the various spelling, and this, I pretty much exhausted a lot of the others as well. Also understanding at the same time, at the end of the day, you could call it Twig, or you could call it, you could call it anything, and it would just be known as that. Some of the business names these days just don't make sense. So it's just letting go of that stuff. None of that matters. But one of the things that is important is that I wanted to make sure that the kids found it enjoyable to pass around. The Path We Take, I just thought, that sounds like an old person's app. Have you tried the old, the Path We Take? I thought that would be not a good thing. So, but MllO, dude, you tried MllO? I'm sure that we're going to
take it sounds like a soap opera from the 70s. Like next on The Path We Take.
Oh, that great voice. Great voice.
Music. Cue music.
I just think the MllO thing is so much better.
Yeah. Well, look, I in one of the meetings I was talking about something like that I was working on, and someone said, "Yeah, there's a bunch of these apps out there," and I'm like, no, there's not. So the feedback I got was that there's apps with meditations. We have meditations, ASMR, basically your favorite soothing sounds that you like to listen to put you to sleep or to relax you. Some calm down, so you can listen to someone literally calm you down from anger or whatever, anxiety, whatever it might be. But what the other apps don't have is the countless hours of the hundreds of hours of video interviews with people that have literally gone through everything, and to hear how they went through it, how they got to the other side, and you see them now as functioning adults and that they're happy. And you know, one of the individuals said, if I'd have followed through when I was 18 years old on that one thing that I was going to do, I wouldn't now be enjoying my husband, my children, the life that I have now. I'm glad I hung in there. So there's just some really powerful lessons, and hearing that other people kind of made it through their traumas, and it's very possible, and you're very able to kind of get the resources you need to get through these traumas and come out the other side. The equity that this app gives you, because you're able to choose the resources that you need and you're most comfortable with. A lot of the issues are, a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking to people. So just to be able to go to this anonymous thing, right? Find some of the stories that relate to you, or just calm yourself. You're giving yourself the equity to bring yourself up to a level that you feel that maybe everyone else is. But the reality is, as we know, we're all going through the same stuff on the inside anyway. You just don't see it because, you know, a lot of us are very good at covering that up. Especially me, I'm very good. Anyway, over to Dan and Dave and Lima now.
You know what one of the good things is about having everything in one place is that not every person wants to meditate, right?
Sure.
Some people find value in hearing the stories of others, and especially if it's not coming from someone that's close to you, you know? When I talk to a lot of my kids at school, they're like, yeah, my mom told me I shouldn't do this or I should do this. They don't want to hear that. So hearing it from someone else is often something that I think would be really useful for anyone who's interested in MllO.
Especially when it's real. And the thing is now, students, people in general, are just not exposed to real things. Reality TV is not real. The people that they see on social media, that's not all real. Like, they're just seeing the best versions, and then they might think of themselves as lesser than.
Sure.
And then when they're listening to people talk about real issues, real, you know, things that they've had to overcome, it connects to the reality of what they're experiencing. And then finding comfort in that to say, you know, I'm not the only one. You know, this is how other people have gone through it. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy for me, but I do feel some comfort in that it's been done before. And I know that it's real, as opposed to, oh, that's just a movie. Or because, again, it's very easy to just start thinking about, well, I went through, my parents are getting divorced. And then you just look around, oh, this TV show is about divorce, or, you know, it doesn't mean it's going to be easier, and you don't really know what to look at. So I just feel like the authenticity of it is a huge benefit for people to go to and actually believe what they're seeing, as opposed to trying to correct it somehow mentally.
What I also find very exciting about this entire project is I really get the feeling that it's dynamic. We're going to change, you know, as we go. We're going to develop. It's not going to be static. It's not going to be just, okay, here's a list of things you can look at. Good luck, and we're done, and we're just you know, just deal with that. I definitely get the impression from Andrew and you guys that it's something that will grow.
And the thing about SEL is that it's not something new, right? So we're starting to hear that phrase and the acronym a little bit more, but it's something that's always existed. So now it's just like coming to fruition, and how we can implement it, and what that means and what that looks like, and even what the basis of it is. And I think that that's something that, you know, still needs to be kind of addressed.
Right, because SEL as the acronym, and, you know, social and emotional, which is the name of the podcast, and also at the heart of MllO, is something that has been viewed as life skills. It's been viewed as, when people say I teach life, like, these are all things that, you know, people need to understand, that it's like, as Lima said, it's not new, but it needs to be kind of refocused, especially now, because as we talked about, the data is showing that people are being more depressed, and they're more anxious than ever, and times are tough, and technology and all these new things that, you know, we didn't necessarily grow up with at our fingertips, that is really interfering with individual ability to identify who they are, understand who they are, navigate the world, make those bonds, friendships, overcome obstacles. Because right now I feel like so many people, the second someone asks a question, you just look it up. Like the go-to is to look it up. How do you look something up when it deals with your own emotion?
Yeah.
Like, you're angry. How do you deal with someone who
Where do you
cut me
start?
off? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you, then you go down to videos of people running people off the road, and you're like, is that what I'm supposed to? But there's no real answer to that question that will really help you. And I feel more, and I talk about with this with my students every year. How much time do you spend on your phone? You know, how much of a distraction is it? You know, how much technology you're using every day? And it's just, it's such a big part of their lives that doesn't seem to be changing. And everyone, you know, the students have laptops now, plus their phones and all this. The communication is there, but are the relationships there? Are the bonds there? Are they the awareness? Do they feel better about themselves as a result of it? And the parents of these children, do they know how to navigate children with that? Here, take the tablet, be quiet, you know, or yeah, go on your phone. You know, when I was younger, there was one computer in the house, and it was in a communal area. We didn't have it in our room to be.
When I was a kid, there was one TV in the house.
I think the whole landscape is changed so massively, and not for the worse and not for the better. I think it's just different. When we were younger, most of us played outside with others. We got that social and emotional feedback. We knew that I just did something, and the direct feedback was I got punched in the face, or someone started crying, and you know, either I felt bad or I didn't feel bad, and that started to show who I was as an individual. Now, and we had none of that technology, but now we have the technology, and we're getting less of that. We're getting less of that kind of haptic life feedback, as it were. You know, we're not getting those direct results anymore.
But the feedback also is tarnished by who's providing it and what their motive is for providing it. So if a kid or anybody, right, it could be I could post a picture today online, and the feedback will be likes from the people who like me and nothing from the people who don't. You can't dislike a picture anymore, right? Like, so it could be like a heart, a thumbs up. And how do I know it's authentic? You know, it's not, like you said, it's not face to face. They could just be like, let me just like theirs because they like mine, and what there's so many different things.
So much of that goes on.
Right,
sometimes.
but think about just in your head, like all of the different things that does the amount of likes make you feel better? The less likes make you feel worse? Like, all of the psychology of that has never happened before. So when people say, well, my parents told me to do this, and now I'm going to do this to my kid, that you have to kind of throw some of that out the window, because it just doesn't apply. It's too different.
Well, the other thing what we're seeing, you know, for some time now, is that everything is edited. You were saying, you know, back in the day, you interacted live all the time. We're live right now, right? But most stuff is edited. It's refined, and then I choose the best one, right? Maybe I'll take 20 pictures of myself, and I'll pick the one that's
most flattering.
Flattering,
and
exactly.
Then you filter it. And
but when you're going live with people, as you know, we used to do before technology, they saw your high points and your low points. They saw when you were doing very well and presented yourself in a very a good way, we'll say, and then they saw your mistakes and they saw your shortcomings, and they saw it was just much more real. There was less editing, less manipulation, and I think, you know, we all do it. We all do it. Anybody who posts anything does it.
That's the perfect example of like when you had to take a picture, and you wouldn't know what it looked like until you got it developed.
Right.
And
Might
then,
be 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and your eyes are shut, and you go, "Oh, your eyes were shut."
Look at you.
Like, how often do you see people with their eyes shut in a photo anymore?
I'm gonna start doing that on
gonna
social
keep-
media. I take pictures of my eyes shut.
Because those pictures, you still put it in the album because you're like, "That's the closest thing I got."
It's
But
all-
you accept it. Like,
Right.
it's the picture of your ear, and maybe you don't put that one in
Right.
there, but like inside of your pocket, whatever you got. But you get the whatever it was, 24 pictures, and that's what it is.
What was it more genuine?
But that's what I'm
It was more
saying.
genuine.
That's the authenticity of it. You took the picture, whatever that moment was. You're not going to take the whole roll for just that one picture.
Right.
No.
Wouldn't that be
Right?
great
No.
if we could actually go back and, or if we could make it so that phones only took 24 pictures in a week?
Choose wisely.
Like what pictures would we be taking?
Fascinating.
My
Yeah.
1-year-old son would take pictures of the floor all day.
Yeah.
Artist.
Yeah, I probably would as well. Oh, look at the grain in that. Yeah, that's excellent.
Well, think about the pressure that some of these young people on. At this point, that's the only world they've ever known. That you don't take impromptu pictures. You take a picture of yourself and maybe a dozen more, and then you, again, choose wisely.
Yeah.
Find something that's appealing to everyone, or don't post it at all. Maybe you don't come up with anything, and you see your friends are posting great pictures, and they look great, and they're they've got big smiles, and they're all having a good time all the time. I got to believe that some young people have never seen anyone on social media not having a great time.
Yeah.
But
But also the inherent fear that some of them have about posting anything, especially today, where it could become a volatile moment for them, and they can have criticisms, and they can get canceled, and all these. Like, we didn't have to worry. We were talking to people, and you get the immediate feedback. Oh, don't say that. But you didn't have to worry about it becoming a bigger thing than just that moment.
Right.
You say something, hey, don't say that. All right, sorry, my fault. And then it's over. It's not, oh, did you hear what they said? And now it's viral, and it's chaos now. So the fear of all of that kind of gets in the way of them getting to understand themselves. And this is all the kind of stuff that we need to be aware of as teachers, as parents, as adults, as teenagers, kids. Everybody kind of has to have a better awareness of how to navigate this world. And I think SEL is not something that should be kind of, you shouldn't just recoil in fear of the unknown or think you're doing something wrong. It's just having a better awareness to say, I want to be a better person, and I want my child to be a better person. I want my kid to be a better person, more capable, a better citizen, have more empathy, all the different things you want. It's not a bad thing. And as Alima was saying, it's not about, just meditation or ASMR. It's not just that. There's a lot of teaching the student to be better prepared for life, to make better relationships, to make better decisions. That's what this is about.
that really is.
Go through to one of the biggest ones, and you just said it. So just start there, self-awareness being one of the biggest concepts of SEL. So think about our kids, what do they value? Do they even know what it is that they like? Do they know the things that they appreciate, or are they looking at the things on social media that other people like, that other people appreciate?
So I should as well,
And even in counseling, when I'm talking to them and they're juniors talking about what they want to do, they're like, oh, my parents want me to go to school. And so many of my construction kids are like, but I really just want to be a plumber. But my family's telling me that I have to go to school. And it's they know what they want, but they're still afraid to talk to their families about that, and giving them that self-aware, knowing that it's valuable. And I think that that's something that's missing.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. The self-awareness as that key cog is something that just as teachers, that's not really a subject matter, right? That's not like an English question or a math question or a science question, but it's a human question.
But that's also a great in for the teachers, such as English teachers or a graphic design teacher like myself, to say, all right, let's analyze what are some of your passions in life, and let them put the dots together. Let them connect the dots, put 2 and 2 together. And maybe they need some help in math as well, but we can help with that, can't we? But so eventually, if we just do that, we're not telling them what to think. We're just showing them. Actually, they stumble upon how to think for themselves, I think, in a very purposeful way when you ask the right questions.
the passion is, I love that part of it, because as you know, with projects, we kind of are allowed to be a little bit more flexible and give more opportunity and differentiate to a certain extent. And I was just thinking about how I had a student who was an ice skater. And I didn't know that, you know, that's not really something that would come up organically, typically in an English class, you know. But I gave an opportunity to do a project where they had to come up with some kind of artistic depiction of the characters from the year. And she's like, can I do an interpretive ice dance of the characters? And I said, absolutely, that's awesome. And she used different songs for the different characters, and she did different moves. And then she explained it to the class, and everybody was like, they were like, that was awesome. Like, it was like an 8-minute video. And she just had the biggest grin on her face, because it was a kid that wasn't involved in any school, you know, clubs or sports. So you kind of would think, oh, she's just kind of like coming and going. But she had this other passion that was not really shared by a lot of other students. But when they saw her doing it, they were like, she just opened up. Like, that was probably her best day of the year, just being able to show that. And she wanted to show that. She wasn't the loudest kid in class, but when it came, can I present? I want to show this. And it was just an opportunity. That's all it was. So all we're kind of saying is, parents, teachers, other students, like, look for opportunities to get to know people on that level. Ask the right questions in between classes, after class, even during class. Just kind of walk by while people are working and just say, hey, what's going on? What did you do this weekend? You know, what are you into? Whether it's video, and don't downplay things like it's not that important. If they're passionate about it, there's no better way to make a bond with somebody than to kind of connect to that. Yeah. And then if you show any type of interest, to say, when are you going to be there? Or you know, I've gone to students that have done like acting things, or I've had boys that have done like tap dancing, and I would like, oh, when is that? I'll go to it, and they're like, oh, that's all, like, it's coming up this week. I didn't think anybody would want to go, like. And it turns into something that they're like now proud of, as opposed to being maybe a little bit shy or embarrassed about.
Yeah, because you know, people, including people at this table right here, they love talking about what they know about, you know. And you're right. I think that we owe it to them to kind of seek out, like, what is it that you're into? What is it that drives you? You talk about passion a lot, Andrew, and everybody's passionate about something, right? Maybe not what I'm passionate about or what I'm interested in, but I think it's also what you're talking about is also showing interest for some students that, unfortunately, some of them probably don't have too many people in their lives that are showing interest, you know, genuine interest in what drives them.
At a certain age, I think that's definitely the case. You almost assume, like, when they're a child, they're very loud and boisterous about whatever they're into. My son's super into monster trucks, so and he's just running around with a big monster truck. He can't help but just know. Yeah, he'll name them all. He'll do all these things. But Dad, watch this. And then as you get older, that kind of, maybe they get a little bit more shy or you know, reclusive, but they're still passionate about something. It might not be the same thing as they once were. You can, you know, the room might still have, you know, baseball stuff decorating it, but doesn't mean they're still into baseball. So you just got to, you know, ask the right questions and just kind of see where they go.
And they want you to ask. I was speaking to a sophomore that I'm working with, and not at our school, but she's like, you know, I run track and I love it, and she does it every season. I'm like, oh, like, does your mom ever get to come to anything, or does she? She doesn't even ask me about it, and it kind of hurts my feelings, you know. So like, even if they want to do their own thing despite their age, like, they still want someone to be interested. And but again, that was on her part, having that self-awareness and knowing that that was something important for her, to have her family involved in that, you know. Well,
on top of that, I even know this with my own kid, is that sometimes when you get that interest from your family, you think it's an obligatory interest from them. Well, my mom's got to say that because, you know, she's my mom. But when you get that interest from somebody like a teacher or a guidance counselor, or somebody who's just a professional in a, you know, your school, that suddenly shows some interest in what you are into, it can even seem even more genuine.
Right. It just I kind of use this a lot. Like, just, you don't have to go out of your way to do. Just look for the opportunities. That's all it is. Just, if there's an opportunity to get to know somebody better, to ask them a question as you're walking by somebody in the hallway, or if you get a chance to go to a sporting event or some type of activity or some kind of club activity, you know, an art program, they'll just be like, oh my God, there's this. They'll just get excited about you being there.
I've been guilty of not. And a few times over the years. It's always, I've always kind of met it like, but it's been a hard, long day. You know, it's been tough getting to where I've got to over the years as a teacher. And I love my students. And sometimes it's a tough job, peeps. I mean, some days at some point during the last year, someone always pushes me close to an edge, and I'm like, and I say, look, I just want you guys to do well in life. I'm not here to be your friend. I'll say that sometimes. I'm not here to be your best friend. And I've not thought enough over the years. And I have also said at the same time, but sometimes when you say that to a student, that's it, you're kind of done. And but I've also said as well that look, I'd like to be, but at the end of the day, I'm here to, and it's just usually trying to put that one student excuse me, in their place. But I often forget that everyone else is listening. You know. And they go, oh, I thought we were better than that. You know.
Right.
And I've had some students that if everything went south tomorrow and all else failed, I'd adopt in a heartbeat. You know, I always get those students, and my heart always kind of bleeds a little bit for some of the students that are just going through and like, oh, you know, we don't have kids, we got space. You know, my head always goes there. And if only they know the little thing they'd have to do is like the little that our cats do, you know, in the morning. You know, all my cats hate me until it's time to feed, and then Dad, we love you, Dad. But yeah, so it is always so it is this weird dichotomy that I find that I have to kind of reassert. All right, this needs to get done. You're getting a bit too soft, Jones. You know, and kind of lay the law down a little bit. But as well, in saying that, you often realize that there are students that you can't go too far along of like to be too strict, because they're going to take it too much to heart. And
it's a tough situation for a teacher to read a room and read all the variables in a room. I can say this to this person, but if, like you said, if this person over here hears that same thing come out of my mouth, they may take it differently. Or you know, I'm asking a lot of questions about this person's interests, but he hasn't asked about mine. You know, so you just gotta be aware of that. It's not an easy spot to be in.
Yeah. But if you give opportunity, like we had the opportunity this year to have the after school, what was that called? When we had the meetings after school.
Oh, PLT.
PLT.
Was it PLT?
TLC?
I almost started.
That was a whole different thing.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
PLT, personal learning time. So I would just basically tell my students, I'm going to be available from this time to this time, and you can come in and we can go over whatever you want to go over. And I found that you would get like the same people, and they would just almost just want to like hang out. Like they just want to talk about stuff, and they'd make fun of me or whatever, and I would make fun of it. It was just like it was just banter some of the time, but you could tell they just liked that. And even though I didn't see some of them, one of them I didn't see personally all year, and then I saw her last weekend at the SATs, and I just went up and I gave her a big hug. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I haven't even met you. I had you for a whole year, and you used to rip on me. She used to always put the thumbs down for she just put the message. I would be saying something, she's like, and I would just see a giant thumbs down on the screen. So then when she would talk, I'd do the thumbs down. But it was just like, that's the kind of fun interaction as a teacher that like you enjoy during the day. And as a parent, you enjoy that kind of banter with your kids a little bit and playing around. And you know, that's the kind of stuff that can make their day so much brighter than just what did you learn? Yeah, you can learn, but if you have to be able to sprinkle in some of the humanity, which is what SEL is. It's reminding, it's a reminder constantly to you as a person that these are other people. And it's you know, whether it's 20 people in the room, it's not teacher students, it's just 20 people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not I'm always the superior and I'm the sage on the stage, but it's we are all learning. I'm learning each day from you. You know, I don't know what different things are going on in your lives, but I want to know so I could be better for you. And then I'm going to tell you things that will hopefully help you as well, and you help each other. So it's you have to look at things in that kind of light, and I think that that'll make people better. That's the whole objective of SEL. It's about individually becoming better and then collectively becoming better as a community, as a family, as a school, you know, the whole culture of things.
Well, I get the impression that SEL is a resource. The resources that we use to keep things more positive. And I don't know whether students learn more if they're feeling positive, but I strongly suspect that they learn less when they're feeling negative about a situation. When they're cringing about just showing up in a class, or 6 period is always the part of the day that whatever, if we can make it a little bit more comfortable for them, a little bit more positive, I think we should. And some of the things that you're talking about, or you guys have talked about tonight, I think lends itself to creating that positive atmosphere.
Yeah. It's look, I think again with the technology, it's also an amazing time, because when we were young, although we were able to learn and we were a lot more one-on-one, we didn't have anywhere necessarily to turn to secretly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't have anyone that we could say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. You know, would it be possible if you could spend a moment and just talk to me?
Mm-hmm.
No, that was probably someone's biggest fear, opening up like that. But now to have a website or an app that we can introduce to schools to say, you know, look, it doesn't really matter what you're dealing. It matters, but it doesn't really matter what you're dealing with. You're going to find something relatable in here to let you know that you're not alone. And again, that you can climb above, rise above, and get to grips with this. So
you leave better than you came in. Is the objective, and I think that's should be the objective every time anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go somewhere, leave it better than you found it, kind of thing. And I think that's really the whole purpose. But again, and when you don't have the people, and you don't necessarily have the resources and the soundboards to be able to listen to what you're going through, and again, if you go back a generation, it was always get over it. Right, that was always the motto, right? And we're still seeing now adults having major anxiety, depressive episodes, having a lot of issues, because they're coming off of being a product of that. And you can say, well, my parents raised me this way, and look at me. Well, yeah, look at you. Are you okay? You know, are you the best person you can be? Are you super stressed out about money and all these different things? Because right now, the kids that, you know, high school kids on down, they're aware of some of the bigger issues much younger than we were, because they can find it. Mm-hmm. So even from a financial perspective, high school kids are hypersensitive to money. Mm-hmm. And I just remember in high school, I did not care. I had a few bucks, and I would go to the movies, and I never cared about how much I could save. I was spending whatever I was. And I'll make it later. I'll get the loan. I'll pay it back, whatever. But they're so worried about that. It like runs their lives, and it dictates the career they're going to pick, and it dictates what they're spending their time on. You know, I have to get a part-time job. This is the most important thing. And seniors who are prioritizing around working at an ice cream shop over preparing for AP tests because they're making money doing that, but they're not thinking about how passing the AP test is going to save them thousands and thousands of dollars and time in college. But they're not thinking, and that's, again, not aware, right? And they're not being taught that. Yeah. So whose job is it to teach that? Is it the parent? Is it the teacher? Is it the counselor? I
think it's everyone.
Right.
I was going to say, it's all hands on deck.
It takes a village.
The thing is, and when it comes to the money thing, again, like a lot of people, their situations are different. And some of those kids who are, you know, working at the ice cream shop, it may also be to help their families. But majority of the time, it is just to go buy a pair of Jordans or just to have money on the side, you know. But I think that it's everyone's responsibility. And I think that when they come to school, it's like we may look at them and like, you should know this already, or
Right.
you should be able to understand this already. But like the self-awareness isn't there. Like think about now with the kids coming back from isolation and not really being around, they don't know themselves outside of being in their homes for this extended amount of time with their families, where maybe they didn't even feel like themselves. And even like the self-management and being able to like manage their own stress that you were talking about just before. Like
That's huge.
they're not sure how to navigate anything or what avenues to take. So it's using MllO. It's going to their teacher now, like now that they're back in school in person, and finding their school counselor. And it's like, we have to make sure that we're promoting that.
Yeah. And just educating the teachers as much as I know that, you know, throughout the year, I get so stressed. I think look, even though I go through the same amount of stress as some of the students, is just that I am emotionally, I am socially much more aware and aware of myself to know how to best to cope with those anxieties, those stresses that rise, that we all go through. Some of us a lot more than others. And it's to have something like this. But I think there's going to be a level of just drawing in the teachers just to say, look, if you're having a tough time with your students, give them 5 minutes. Let them listen to their favorite sounds. Let them watch a short video within the app, whatever it might be, to just kind of help recenter and cool the situation down, calm them down. It's all still in development as well. There's so much more coming, too much to get into. This is just like a little bit of a gloss over of some of the things that are coming, but also what's behind it all and the individuals that are behind it all as well. So look, this is big stuff. So you know, if you go in there regularly, you're going to see a lot of progression, a lot of development, and you know, there's a lot of areas that you can request things. So if you have a very specific sound that you love to listen to, maybe it's spreading butter on toast, which is actually one of my old students. She said, Mr. Jones, spreading butter on toast. So I have the time of my life recording all of that stuff. I've bought some gongs and chimes and, you know, all these cool bits and pieces, but that's just silly stuff. But it's the stuff for a lot of people. It helps them to relax and just kind of, you know, sometimes for me, I sleep at night, almost every night actually, but
That's a profound statement.
it is. You're welcome. Put that on a t-shirt, America. But sometimes when I sleep at night, I listen to what's called brown noise. Nope. No.
I was like, what is that?
No, not what you're thinking. But it's that could be all sorts of wrong, couldn't it?
Yeah. I could help you make that sound if you do.
I won't say what I was going to say. I just remember this is public and live. But that constant lower swooshing sound is almost, I almost said reminiscent of being in the womb, not that I can remember that far back. But, what womb? The living womb? No. So yeah, it's just something that I listen to, and the more I've done that over the years, it actually, as soon as I hear that noise, I go to sleep pretty quick now. So you can actually almost set like a little preset within your mind, so that as soon as you hear that noise, if you do these things on a regular basis, if you're trying to get to sleep, you'll go to sleep longer. There's all sorts of reasons why I do that. One of them is because lately, when I'm in silence without headphones, you know that noise when you're pumping up a bicycle pump, you're
I was going to say, that does not look like a bicycle
I thought you were
pump.
going to shoot somebody.
That does not look like a bicycle pump.
No. Oh,
You got like a rifle out.
well, all right, sorry.
There you go. There you go.
That's better.
So I'm doing this, and that's actually the one I got downstairs. It's double-handed. See, I said that anyway. So this is going to be very awkward, isn't
I know, but I have a confession. I use a noise machine because when my Leo was born, he was in our room in the bassinet with the noise machine, and then we moved him out really early. I was like, I think I need a noise machine.
Like the noise
So
machine, sure.
myself and my husband, we use a noise machine at night.
Yeah.
Within the last 3 to 4 months, 2 to 3 months, I've been hearing when it gets real quiet, just a eat in my ear. And I've done some research. You know, I'm a guy, doctors and that. Although I'm not a bachelor, which would be even worse. But yeah, so I wear this little head thing, and it just blocks out the noise. So I'm there all night, lying in bed, you know, listening to this squeaky valve or whatever it is. But it's just something in my, I don't know. I'll get it checked up
Eventually.
But again, it all ties back to it. We're just here, and the app will be there so that you can feel better, and try to process things better. There'll be a section about identity. There's going to be a section about identifying what issues you might be dealing with.
Identity is a huge one, right?
Yeah.
Just I remember growing up, even as a 16-year-old, and just issues growing up, nothing too that I really want to get into, but just stuff we go through as a kid, and you just like, where do I fit in?
Sure.
You know, and what does it mean when this happens, or what does it mean when that happens? And yeah, to have something that I could go in and get some general understanding that, oh, you know what, it's actually quite normal for a 15-year-old to be wondering this, that, and the other.
Right.
It is quite normal for, you know, so just to have
or to know that it's not
guidance,
right?
exactly,
and that's the important part,
like
is
that
to
squeaky
say,
valve,
right? Because if you keep feeling something, right, like anxiety, I feel like that's one of those areas where everyone just thinks, oh, I have anxiety, you're fine, whatever, and you just keep kind of going through the motions with that anxiety, and it gets to a point, 10 years, 15 years of doing the same thing, you could realize, wow, I should not have been dealing with this
And not
for that
developing
long.
any coping mechanisms.
Right, because
to
then
help
you start, because
Exactly.
again, the connecting part to the SEL is how to, be a better person and to be self-aware. And if you're not aware that it's affecting you negatively and you think it's everybody else, I'm fine.
That's the decision making
Right,
aspect,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like decision making, and even how like in the class, think about when you have that one kid in the class who maybe have a temper, right? They can't regulate their temper because they haven't worked through that, and it's like being able to assist them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a student once who came in, and she sat right in the front, and as all the students were coming in, I could see she was very upset, and she just did poorly on a quiz or a test or something, and she was just her body language, her eyes, the whole thing was just, you could just tell. So I walked over to her as everyone was kind of getting settled. I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "I did terrible on this test. I'm so frustrated. I just want to scream." I said, "Go ahead." And she's like, "I'm not going to scream."
Wow.
So I just said, "All right, everybody." This kind of goes back to your original point, Andrew, about the teachable moments. I said, "All right, everybody, on 3, we're all going to yell as loud as we can." And they're like, "Okay." So I said 1, 2, 3, and everyone shouted. I shouted too, and she shouted. And then she just looked with a smile on her face, and she's like, "Thanks."
She's okay with it, right?
And it was that quick. She just kind of was like, "It's not that big a deal." Like it was just, again, looking for the opportunities that present themselves to us, and not just saying full steam ahead, open your books to whatever. If it takes an extra minute out of the class, it's well worth it for that kid, and to make that bond between you and that kid. And I guarantee, and that student, I had it after that, I had a great relationship.
Oh, these kids are going to be so much more invested in your class.
Right. Just because you took a second to just do something for them. And again, it's the first minute of class. Everyone's still kind of trickling in and getting their books out and whatever.
You imagine this one student is walking in and everyone screams out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's just like, what happened? But and again, the opportunities present themselves. It's just, as a parent, as an adult, as a kid, whatever it is, kind of be somewhat flexible to navigate and be aware of what that moment can do for somebody, to have the empathy, which is a big part of SEL as
what
well.
I think is interesting, as you were telling that story, I was envisioning your class and I was envisioning the individual, but what I like about your story too is that there were probably positive residual effects, even with the other students.
Yeah.
Because so much about teaching has to do with building trust, a relationship. You're going to be spending 180 days with someone, okay? And you want to build a relationship of mutual respect. And I think what you did showed not just that individual student, but the rest of the class. Richie cares.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those, like, each class has their own kind of personality.
Yeah.
That class's personality like went up a couple ticks that day because they like all had this moment together that just was, again, an organic moment that presented itself that wasn't a part of the lesson plan or anything else. So that's why these things can happen no matter what subject you teach. As a parent, they can happen at any point with your kids. You just got to look for the opportunity to, driving in the car, turn the radio off, ask a couple questions, right? There's so many different ways to make it work.
They years ago there was an experiment, and I don't know how many years ago, but this is the type of stuff I want to have on file as well, just so I can kind of pull it up. But there was an experiment, and a person was having issues with something, and someone just went out of their way and helped them. And it was measured, and the feel good and the was it dopamine and oxytocin, those two of the good, the positive, serotonin. Yeah. The feel good hormones. Anyway, they were measured, and they found that not only the person that did good for an individual, their hormones increased, but also the person the good was done for, their hormones increased. But they also found that everyone else that witnessed those two, oh, well, there's me, and I'm telling that story, and everyone knew about it.
But I show that, I do that every year.
I didn't know about it.
I do that with Transcendentalism every year. I talk about that.
The others, they felt good too. But they're so everyone's hormones went, so what? That's that scenario played out at its best.
Randomly, do you know that there's a very large percentage of your feel-good hormone in your gut? So also eating healthy also influences it. Did you know that? That's a random fact.
Sure. Sleep and sleep and diet. No, that's just lots of the feel-good hormones.
That's what it is.
Trust me, there's lots of. I got lots too. But
so it makes you gain weight. The feel-good hormones.
I mean, maybe.
I thought it was more the negative. All right, that's it. I'm going to be miserable. That's weight.
But I love all that stuff and just the scientific aspects of it, and that's where again a lot of this kind of comes in. I don't want to put anything on the site that's just woo woo or has no reason. So it's just looking at what works, what does work, and I think. Again, beyond that is just educating the teachers and just bringing them on board to help them make their lives a little bit easier,
right? At
times as well.
That's all it is, yeah. And it's not something that people should be afraid of. It's not that people should look at it and say,
it's extra.
Yeah, it's extra, right? A lot of teachers will look at it that way and say, I don't need another thing to do here. And some parents might look at it as just being too soft. Right. And then that's not what it is either. We want productive, good people in this world. That's what we want. Yeah. And I certainly want that for my kids. And I drill that all the time about just please and thank yous. And like, I'll give my kids a snack. And if they don't say thank you, I take it back. And I'm like, we'll try it again in a couple minutes. And I'll walk back and they'll say thank you.
All these kids.
It's just the basics. That's all it is. And everybody can do that. It's not a matter of your profession or it's nothing. It's just the basic things in life that have seemed to be forgotten to a certain degree over the years.
Yeah, look, I mean, all these students are going to become the society. They already are a part of the society, but the older they become, they're going to become more and more responsible and a greater part of society. So that's really what this is all about, is about creating, as corny as it sounds, better tomorrows for everyone.
Right.
And if we're all kind of socially and emotionally more balanced and more able, and we can all read each other and be more aware of the things that we're saying and how it affects other people, there'll be a lot less anguish in the world. And but those are topics for another day, because look at that, 59 minutes and 8 seconds.
Perfect.
But wait, I'm waiting for Dave to say, I'm not done.
Oh, I could add
He's got
more.
plenty to say.
But I think I just do want to say something going back to Alima's point earlier, that it's everybody together in this makes it better.
Yeah.
It's not everybody looking at a situation and saying, well, that's the job of the parents, or they're supposed to be getting that at school, or they'll figure it out on their own. It's not assuming anything, but just everybody saying, look, you may have heard this somewhere, but I'm going to tell you again. And at home, they might tell you it again. And hopefully everybody's on the same page and not just passing the buck.
Yeah.
Because that's where, it could start with MllO, it could start with SEL, but hopefully just opening up the lines of communication to where everybody can feel like they can address things a little bit better
and be supported.
Right.
And don't forget, right? And a lot of things that are going to come out, you got to still go. And he had us stopped and we keep going.
See,
that's your fault now. I was going to say, Alima speaking.
No, but okay, I'll stop. But
anything.
the thing is to remember, like, teachers are going to think, this is not, if they come to me with something that I can't handle what to do, and that's when you send them to your school counselor. I just want to throw that in there, right? Because we have plenty of people in the building who are there and willing to help. And if you don't feel comfortable, it doesn't mean don't ask the big questions. Still ask the big questions and know that you have support.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Alima. We'll end on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, look, I mean, I know we've got some video stuff to sort out, but week by week, I'm not going to become a broken record. I'll get that fixed. But yeah, thanks everyone.
Great time.
Great
Thank you.
Social, emotional.
And next week,
MllO.app.
and next week we'll be in school for a couple days before we have this.
So that's going to be a bit of an interesting
lots to say,
to. Did you see what so and so did? Oh, I know. That'd be the gossip episode. No, I can't. I want my job.
A lot of viewers that
I
week.
was going to say, what a tease. Next week, the gossip episode.